Joe, we move on to our next one here. The Michigan Wolverines versus the Nebraska Cornhuskers on FanDuel. The Wolverines are -2.5 favorites on the road. But, Joe, this over-under is at 45.5. When you on FanDuel, when you see this team and you see these matchups, what are your thoughts?
Blake, this is another tough game to judge. This is a very, very tough game to judge because on one hand, we have Bryce Underwood coming off of an amazing performance against Central Michigan, where they said, Biff Poggi said this, that they gave him the green light to go be an athlete. And he was. A lot of scrambles where he was able to pick up a lot of big plays, 114 yards rushing. Their defense is still loaded with quality starters. Jayshon Barham's back in the mix, and he looks incredibly gifted and dominant. But, Blake, I got to bring up here with this Nebraska squad. I find it a little frustrating that we're spending all this time talking about how all of these young guys are just not living up to the expectations. Talking about how DJ Lagway's not playing well, how Arch Manning's not playing well. Sam Levitt's another guy who hasn't really played as well as we thought he was going to. But we've got Dylan Raiola right now, who's 4th in the country in completion percentage. He's got no interceptions. No one has talked about Raiola. I know that they haven't played anyone. They played a tough-ish opponent. It's not like that's a brutal opponent against Cincinnati, but it was a harder first game test than most teams had in the country. And I thought that he played well, despite not getting much from his receivers and the guys around him. Blake, I think this conversation starts with Raiola, and it's intriguing to talk about Raiola knowing that he is squared off with Underwood, who is impactful in his own right.
Joe, that game was 20-17. I get what you're saying, but why was it 20-17 against Cincinnati? Now, you can turn around and say, Blake, it's week 1. You still have a lot of young players. You have a lot of people from the transfer portal. There's a lot you can say about Nebraska. I get it. You had a tough opponent, week 1, Cincinnati trying to come out there and knock you off. I get it. The problem that I have, too, here is when I look at that Cincinnati game, not only did Sorsby, the Cincinnati quarterback, I mean, he wasn't great through the air. He only had 69 passing yards on 13 completions. He also ran the ball 13 times for 96 yards.
That's
and I look at Bryce Underwood and say, listen, this kid can hit things on you. I still think, ironically, Michigan has a better wide receiver core than you're going to see overall with tight ends and running backs included, a core of guys he can throw the ball to than what Cincinnati had. And I look at the situation and say, look, we finally got to see when Sharon Moore wasn't there last week, Bryce Underwood run the damn football. He literally was running the football. I'm like, did they just run a zone read with Bryce Underwood? Did that dude just hit the open field? Uh-oh. I get what you're saying, and this is a massive showdown for Nebraska. The thing for me is more of the X's and O's and players in the field, this game being there. Nebraska's had the issue of not overcoming these big game situations. And I understand that Michigan has already lost a game to Oklahoma. I get it. Is this a signature win moment for them? I don't disagree with Raiola. I actually agree wholeheartedly with your statement that we talked about Arch, we've talked about Lagway, we've talked about all these Klubnik that hasn't lived up to the snuff. But I also want to just point out that they're running an air raid principle. They're getting the ball out quick, and that's a benefit to him. I'm not saying that it's not. And some of his receivers let him down against Cincinnati. But that's kind of my point. And I thought to some extent, when you look at that game and you look at the rushing yards for Nebraska and having 110, this is a completely different beast that you're going up against this week in Michigan. Okay? I'm glad you did what you did against Houston Baptist. Akron literally is, Joe, the worst team in college football right now, based off of every single little thing that they're going through. Their coach, the academics. It is by far the worst. If you don't know what I'm talking about, go look it up. Joe, they didn't know if they could field a team 3 months ago. Legitimately, they did not know. So which Nebraska am I getting? Are you finally with Matt Rhule in year 3 going to turn the page here? Because this is it. This is where you start getting that sodium pentothal and you start getting the answers to this question. This game more to me is about, can Matt Rhule's chemistry of a team overcome against a team that, Joe, quite honestly, can't really make another mistake for this season. They can't lose this. They can't be 2-2 coming into Sunday. They can't. I'm really fearful about if Michigan can go in to Nebraska and do exactly what they need to do and run the football. If they can, I think Michigan can pull away here. And I did say pull away. Raiola, however, let me say this. In the back of my mind, I keep saying to myself, man, Raiola is playing really good. He's seeing the field really well. And is that going to be what overcomes them and sparks them and gets them the win that they need? Because, Joe, based off of their schedule, they win on Saturday.
I said this in the preview that we did in the preseason. If they win the Michigan game, they're going to go to the playoff. Like, seriously, 10-2, 11-1, accomplishable to go to the playoff, as long as they don't have a silly loss there. I think that you bring up a good point here, and maybe this does end up creating an opportunity for Matt Rhule to really build that program, or to gain that program building win. That victory in which we talked about with Texas A&M beating Notre Dame. We talk about all these victories against premier blue blood programs that you have that allow for your team to rally around itself. I'm going to keep pushing the Raiola bit here because understandably their offense wasn't as productive as it should have been. But I thought that Raiola had a number of really tight throws where he had to place the ball with some real fantastic precision. And he did it. I think that this kid is in his bag. And I think that just because they had a little bit of a shaky first game with a brand new offense isn't reflective of what they can accomplish this year.
It ain't brand new.
Boy, but the whole system was not completely implemented mid-year last year. They didn't throw the whole system.
I played in the air raid with Mummy and them. Joe, Joe, bullshit. They roll out colors for runs. It's the same thing. Ask Hal.
No, look, I understand that. I understand that it's not a hard offense to learn. Hence why so many teams use it. I'm merely just pointing out, just because Holgorsen took over mid-year last year is not the same as them starting fresh in week 1.
Well, you've been a year in it. Let's just be honest.
Yes.
You've been in it a year. So
okay.
I
don't completely. I think that there's still a little bit of grace to be given to them for the first game of the season against I don't want to call Cincinnati tough, but it is more of a week 1 challenge than most people had that were playing FCS and G5 teams. Where I am leaning and why I keep bringing up Dylan Raiola. You have for Nebraska, they are 6th in EPA per drop back. And we have Michigan, who's 53rd in that same category. It is the principle that we brought up in the Oklahoma preview, but I felt like we kind of ignored it. We ignored the fact that they don't have explosive receivers. If they get into a situation where they're down by multiple scores and they need to put points on the board, they can't do it at the current moment. That was what cost them against Oklahoma. They were moving the ball. They're running the ball. And then the minute that they got stopped on 1st and 2nd down, where was the big playmaker that they needed? They opted to kick field goals because they couldn't finish in the red zone. They'd get 60% through the drive and they couldn't finish. Like, I just think that if we get into a situation here where Raiola does catch some rhythm, as great as Bryce Underwood has looked, he does not have the guys to turn to at receiver. He just doesn't.
I just want to throw this out there. When you said Michigan doesn't have explosive receivers, and I'm thinking neither does Iowa last year, and they won 13-10. They had 5 first downs last year. And I know it's a completely different team. I know it's a completely different situation. But it's just where my mind went to. I'm like, Iowa had 5 first downs last year. 5.
That was last year. This is
I get it. Does Jerome Moore not coaching in this game change anything?
I know this is a cop-out answer, but I honestly don't know. I don't know what Biff is doing.
Either. Well, I don't know either. And I don't think it changes the overall game plans of what you would have done anyway. Maybe offensively of what Sharon Moore would have allowed with Bryce Underwood. But, Joe, I got to be honest with you. I felt like last week was the first week that they took the training wheels off. I think Sharon Moore, for what it's worth, Joe, let me ask a question. I mean, I just asked this. Is Sharon Moore holding him back?
No, I mean, I wouldn't.
Joe, they didn't run zone reads versus Oklahoma, and now they're out there running him. It doesn't make sense to me because why would, if you're not going to put him in a game like that when you can't throw the ball and let him run it, why in a meaningless game would you allow for him to try to get hurt and then you not do it? Like, why wouldn't you? It doesn't make sense to me. Let's see what this week brings, and maybe it was just a 1 week, you're playing a bad opponent, whatever. But listen, I don't know where to lean in this game. I really don't. The physicality is going to be an issue for them. Their defense had an issue with contain. And if this Michigan team can hit the edge and, Joe, they get that run game going, it's night-night. It's night-night time. I'm telling you, they're going to go night-night. I don't care what Raiola does.
The only thing that I push back with that is I don't think that this Nebraska team is lacking the same amount of physicality that they didn't have last year.
Cincinnati got the edge on you, and this run game's got more speed at the edge in Michigan. You got to give it to them. You knew quarterback power was coming against Cincinnati. You knew it. You knew the zone read was coming, Joe, and they couldn't stop it. This kid threw for 69 yards.
And one of the other fears that comes with this too is that they had so many issues stopping Sorsby as a runner. That's the one part for me that I'm legitimately concerned about from the Nebraska side. I'm leaning Nebraska at the current moment. I think that this could end up being a really big momentum building win for them to like really establish themselves as a resurging program that's getting back on track. Mostly because Raiola is actually playing well compared to all these other quarterbacks that we spent the entire offseason hyping up that have not lived up to it. But the one thing that you just brought up there and keep bringing up is Sorsby's performance does make me quite fearful of what Underwood can do. And it's not like they're catching Underwood after the Oklahoma game. They're catching him after the Central Michigan game where Poggi literally said that they gave him the green light, that they decided they're going to just let him go out there and play. They're not going to be restrictive. They're not going to make it feel like he has to follow a certain
How would you make that comment? Well, let me ask you this. Why would you make that comment if he wasn't the first 2 weeks, 3 weeks?
Well, Biff is a lot more uncensored, so he's just going to say whatever he wants.
But that's my point. People who are uncensored will tell you what's going on in that locker room.
Which is why the media needs to keep asking Biff questions because Sharon's not transparent, as we know. He's not going to – he didn't bother to really explain why they didn't go for it on those fourth downs when they needed to.
Exactly. That's my point. And listen, there were just some times and moments. I know one of them got called back for a holding, but there's Joe, you have some really interesting runs. He's checking stuff at the line. He did not do that against Oklahoma. And I get it's Oklahoma and you're on the road. It's a true freshman quarterback. Like, I get all of that. The other thing that turns to my mind here, Matt Rhule, you just had a freshman quarterback. You know what this kid's going to struggle with. Go send pressure right at him. But the not being able to attack the boundary, let me not say the boundary. Not being able to contain and run lanes is an issue for me. It is an issue. If Cincinnati can do it, Michigan can do it.
Can I reemphasize, though, something that we haven't brought up?
Sure.
That has been something that we've, for some reason, overlooked in a couple of weeks that we shouldn't have.
Sure.
It is a home game at Nebraska, and you've got a true freshman quarterback traveling. We overlooked that the first time, and I think it helps Bryce Underwood that he had the Oklahoma game already underneath his belt where he was challenged, and you could kind of see as the third quarter came around and he was really struggling. It did look like a situation where he was overwhelmed.
I don't think Nebraska's Oklahoma, though. They ain't got that defense.
Yes, but I meant like the home setting for Nebraska is part of Oklahoma's.
Well, I haven't been either, so I'm gonna be. I don't know what I don't know. that Oklahoma defensive line is far supreme to Nebraska's front seven.
I don't disagree with that.
Just the same high take.
There's a huge difference. There's a huge difference. I'm not going to sit here and act like that there isn't.
Justice Haynes goes for over 120.
I think that happens, but the question is does Underwood have the same level of passing success?
If he does, here's where I sit. I'll just be honest with you. I got to see Nebraska actually do it. I got to see him actually do it.
But have we seen Biff do it? Like, what evidence do we have of Biff taking a true freshman or just a team on the road?
But I've seen players on that same team, literally these juniors that were there as freshmen, have their coach suspended in the middle of the year, and then Sharon Moore come in, and then them going to run to a national title. Those kids were freshmen. Those seniors were sophomores. So they've been through this exact thing before. This isn't new to them.
That's fair. That's fair. We had a comment from Elks, by the way.
I saw it. I'm all right on it. Oh, Elks sends a $2 super chat. Since he has better receivers than Michigan, let's be honest. No, they don't. I'm sorry. No, they don't.
No, Blake.
They threw for 69 yards.
I don't think either receiving group's very good.
I'm not saying Michigan's is great. I'm just saying that, listen.
I think they're pretty comparable. I think they're comparable. I think they're both pretty weak.
I'm not getting in this semantics game with y'all.
Their best player is a tight end. Their best receiver is a tight end at Michigan, and I'm pretty sure he's banged up. Klein.
Here's the thing, though. I'm not going to sit here and defend their wide receiver room. I'm just not against it. I'm not going to do it. But
that's probably a good idea.
Do you ever remember how bad that Thursday night game was or Friday night game, whatever it was? Literally, they couldn't throw. Like, dude, Sorsby was so bad throwing the football.
No, I remember it. I had a 4 a.m. flight the next day, and it was the perfect game to fall asleep to. I had a 4 a.m. flight, and I fell asleep, and I didn't miss a damn thing.